Welcome back to the Know My Truth podcast, where we talk about what it's really like to live, work, own a business in Northern Michigan. And today we have special guest, Danielle Fry. So Danielle, thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
We were talking before we started that we've actually known each other for a lot longer than we think we have. And just want to know a little bit more about your journey to Northern Michigan. I know a little bit about it. It's a really interesting story. So just how did you end up here?
So born and raised like in the Lansing area, kind of in the country near Lansing. Went to Michigan State, met my husband at Michigan State. Well, we weren't married then, but met him there. Funny thing is we both met each other. We both wanted to be dentists. And then we both wanted to do the military. So It was just kind of like very cool that we already kind of had a path that we were thinking about without knowing each other. So we met each other. Started dating. We both want to do the military. So we started talking to different recruiters, and we talked to the Navy recruiter because my dad's prior Navy. We talked to the Air Force recruiter and applied for a scholarship, got the scholarship. And then once we got into a dental school, then we were automatically into the scholarship. So that's actually what I do, a little plug for the military.
Like, you should. Thank you for your service.
Yeah. Well, if anybody's thinking about like medical school or dental school, but they're worried about the cost, the HPSP program was amazing.
Is it the same now as when you were there? I
think it's probably better.
Really?
I'm sure it is. I mean, because the stipend keeps getting a little bit more. So they pay for your school. They give you a little monthly stipend to live on. And then when you get done, you owe them like a year for a year type thing.
It's fair.
So it was amazing. It's very similar to like ROTC, if you've heard of that. That's more for undergrad, but the HPSP program is for people going into like medical or dental school. So we both wanted to do that because the amount that it costs to go to dental school is very daunting to us.
So I don't want to interrupt you, so just tell the audience how. So you went to undergrad at Michigan State, and then when you wanted to become
a dentist, we went to dental school.
So what do you think that saved you?
So it was at the time. So we graduated in 2011. So between 2007 and 2011, it was about $400,000 for dental school each.
Yeah.
So that saved us a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And then so we did that. And then the military placed us in Ohio for a residency, and then they placed us in Idaho for a couple years. And when we were out in Idaho, like people don't think to go to Idaho probably a lot. It is amazing.
Really?
It's gorgeous, especially northern Idaho. And so we traveled all over. We loved it, and we kind of looked at each other and were like, we can't really go back to where we're from in Michigan because it's like farmland and boring, and we have to live somewhere like this. We want to be outside. And luckily, a dental rep told me about Dr. Brazone's getting ready to retire in Petoskey, and I was like, Petoskey? It's really far now.
Yeah.
Like we were thinking like maybe a little north of Grand Rapids, like along the lake, and we had never been to Petoskey. I've been to the UP a million times because my family's from Ironwood, Michigan. Okay. My dad's family, and my mom's from Hurley. So we would go up there all the time, but I would never come through Petoskey because we'd always be on the 75.
Right.
So I was like, it's a little far. Okay, so then we scheduled a visit with Dr. Brazone's, and we came through, and within 10 minutes of being here, we're like, yep.
This is it.
This is it. This is where we want to be. It's like a storybook place.
What happened to those? I know you're joking, but what happened in those 10 minutes to make you feel like, what was it about Petoskey that made you feel like this? Because obviously thinking all the way north of Grand Rapids to Petoskey, those are two different things. What made you think that, just in a short amount of time, that this could be for you? We
just took the route along the lake. We actually drove from the Grand Rapids area. I think we were staying with my brother, and we came up all 31, and then we came around the lake, and it was the lights were sparkling and everything, and I was just like, this is so beautiful. And then we stayed at Boyne Mountain that weekend. Did some skiing, and then we came and just kind of walked around downtown. And this is perfect. We want to be here.
What year was that?
So that would have been 2015. Yeah.
What year did you and Nate get married?
2010.
So what? I'm trying to put the timeline together. At what phase of your education did you get married? Right.
In our third year of dental school.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they let you do your residency together because you were married? Mm-hmm. Okay.
You had to be married in the military to be based together.
Was that part of the motivation to get married?
That's part of me.
part of Nate's motivation?
Well, I was like, they basically said to us, they said, like, you have to be married by this date, essentially, so that you can apply for your residency if you want to be based together for your residency.
A really romantic story.
Yeah, it worked well for me because I was ready to get married sooner than he was.
That's okay.
But it went good. Yeah, so we got married in our third year of dental school, and then we applied for our residency for the Air Force right after that.
Okay. I feel like we keep talking about Nate. Nate Fry is Danielle's husband, who I know very well. Super nice guy. He's also a dentist.
Yes.
A lot of people think you work together. You don't.
No.
How far are your offices? Are what? How?
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half apart.
He's over by Cormax.
Yeah. So what? Okay, then what year? So you have how many kids? I should know this. How many kids?
We have 3 kids.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Is Luca the oldest?
Luca's the oldest.
So he would have been born in 2012?
13, yeah.
13. Okay, so he was born the same
year.
year.
So I had him in the military.
Oh,
and then I went back to school. So while I was in the military, I got training in orthodontics and decided I really loved it. And they were putting a halt on new people going into orthodontics through the military at the moment for the Air Force. We were going through like a force reduction, essentially. We were like reducing the overall Air Force. Sure. At that time. So that wasn't really going to be an option for me to apply. So we decided to get out of the military when our time was up. And I applied to orthodontic residencies all over the country, got like 5 interviews, and luckily matched at Detroit Mercy so we could come back to Michigan. That was kind of our ultimate goal.
What were the struggles of taking over? You bought the practice from somebody else. Mm-hmm. What was that like? Were there struggles? Was it easy?
I mean, it's hard because the staff are used to a different person. So that's hard. It's also hard because you're not really taught a lot about business and dental school.
Right, that's true.
I mean, I took a lot of like little mini courses, but it's hard to know what you're going to do until you get into the moment.
Right.
And unfortunately, I bought the practice. I mean, I don't know if you remember the polar vortex. Remember that winter before COVID?
Yeah, I do.
And it was like my schedule was just falling apart like crazy. And I was just like, I'm a new owner and I'm trying to figure this all out. And then felt like I got things going really well. And then COVID happened and I had to close my practice for 10 weeks. And and then, of course, there was the whole great resignation era, that we all experienced.
What was that like?
It was really hard. I mean, it was hard to like, because what I do is so specific, and like I'm training someone to do that specific item. And by the time I get them trained, if they decide, maybe I don't love this, and then they leave, then you're like restarting over and over. And it was really challenging during that COVID era.
If somebody were thinking about, because one of the reasons I want to have you on is I think you're the perfect, you're a great example of, you have a family here, you moved here from a different area, you bought a business here. Mm-hmm. If somebody were coming here because they were thinking about buying a business or, a similar story to yours, what's a couple pieces of advice you'd give them? What are some things about running? So you're obviously a great orthodontist, but being a great orthodontist does not mean you're a great business person.
Oh, absolutely.
So what? Not that you're not, because maybe you are, maybe you're not. But what are some of the things that surprise you about running a business versus just being great at your craft?
I mean, in a small town, you have to remember you're going to run into people that you work with everywhere. And not only in your professional life, but your personal life. I mean, like everywhere we go. I'm running into someone, and we were at dinner last night and ran into a bunch of people, and we're just like, oh, okay. And she's like, you know what I mean? Like everywhere. So that can be challenging, but it's also a blessing, because people see you out and about in the community. They see you as a community member. They realize that you're doing things for the community. And so then they have more trust in you, and that's really important when you're a medical provider, to have people have trust in you. So, you have to take the good or the bad. Like in Detroit, there's a dentist on every corner, right? It's hard to know who's good at what they do. But here, like, I feel like I have to rise to the occasion every single day because people know me and see me all over the place, and I don't want to disappoint them.
And I think I'll give you a compliment. I think you do a really good job of promoting yourself and putting, as a real estate agent, that's just what we do. But I think you do as good a job as any real estate agent, which is, and I think that I'm not going to say the other company's name, but there's only 2 of you here, right?
There's 3.
There's 3. Okay, I'm not going to say the other. I only know one of them. I'm not going to say that the 3. So I think you do a good job of, making sure you're the most well-known, which I think in business is often, not that you're not good, but sometimes being the best known is better than being the best. So that's... How would you describe the overall vibe of living in Northern Michigan?
It's amazing. It's quaint, but it's also like busy at the same time. And some of the reasons we're busy here is because there's so much to do, And it's not just Petoskey. Like I love Petoskey, but Harbor Springs is great. Boyne is great. Charlevoix is great. Like, I love going to all the different towns as much as I can, to enjoy them, to eat there,
Right.
and, explore different areas and things like that. So the vibe is just quaint.
Sure.
It's pleasant. It does get busy in the summer,
It does.
and it seems like each summer is getting a little busier.
It does.
It's hard to know because I've only lived here since 2017, but it definitely seems like it's trending that way.
So as somebody that's been here for their whole life, it is getting busier.
Okay.
And we talked about this on a podcast we did recently. It seems like not only it's getting busier, but it's getting wealthier, because I remember, 10 years ago, you'd see, like one nice car a month, and it was like one a week. Now it's like 5 a day.
Sure.
And I think that does bring some challenges. It's becoming, but this probably doesn't affect you. Maybe it does, but this is becoming a very expensive place to live. And I don't know if that's affecting your clientele, if they're having to pick like braces, or maybe your clientele doesn't.
It's been a change. It's been different. Like, so there used to be these like trends in orthodontics in certain months that were really busy because that's where people wanted to get braces on or wanted to get them off. And I just found that since COVID, those trends have gone away. And when I think I'm seeing a new trend, it changes again. So this summer was a little quieter for me, and patients just were on vacation, and they were prioritizing things like that. And now September, which is notoriously a quiet month, is actually ramping up for me.
Oh,
and
good.
it's like, so like whenever I think I'm seeing a trend, it changes because I think generations are changing.
Yeah.
I think COVID really like threw a wrench in all of that, and now we have all these new trends that are happening. And I'm sure you're seeing the same thing.
Yeah. How did COVID change your business the most? That's not a question I prepared you for, but you just made me think of it.
No, so the biggest part about COVID was I was closed for 10 weeks, right? So there were patients that I didn't see for a very long time. So I had to go through and read charts, and I saw them over Zoom if I felt like I was worried about something. Yeah. And then when we got back, it was like triaging. I want to make sure the patients who needed to see me first got in first, that were, more concerning for whatever reason. And that lengthened a lot of people's treatment time, unfortunately, just because they broke things and they didn't call because they were worried about it and they didn't want to come into the office. And so we just had to kind of start new. Like every patient was almost like a new patient exam again, even though I'd been working with them maybe for 2 years at that point.
Sure.
I just had to recapture all of that and get kind of my bearings. And
how long did that take? How long did it take?
It took a long time. It really took a long time because when that happened, not only was I triaging all these patients, all of a sudden, because people weren't traveling, they did have additional money. Right. So I had people calling me that I did an exam on 2 years prior that wanted to get in and get, and so it just felt like my schedule was just very full, and I had to kind of rein it in recently because I was like, okay, I got kids in sports and I need to be able to get out and get them to things. And
how do you balance it all? Because I just know you from just knowing you. I mean,
it's hard.
You both own businesses. What's the secret? What's the key to trying to balance it all?
Well, I focus on my sleep. That's a big part of my practice,
that's great.
Right? Because I'm a big airway focused orthodontist. I'm always worried about people having the right size airway and that they're sleeping well, that they don't have an anatomical reason that they don't get good sleep, essentially. So that's half the time I'm at my practice, I'm talking about that. So I kind of practice what I preach. I
didn't know that.
Yeah,
give us some sleep tips. This is bonus content. If somebody listening to this that wants to sleep better, what's something they can do?
They should not be mouth breathing.
Okay.
You need to sleep with your mouth closed and breathing through your nose. So if you can't do that, we need to figure out where the obstruction is, essentially.
Are all the I see it on Instagram all the time, the hostage tape, is there any value to that?
So I don't like the hostage tape because it sounds scary, but it works. I instead have little X's that I wear over my lips, and that keeps my lips from.
Do you notice them?
No. You just forget. You can talk with them on.
Maybe we'll get a brand deal. Is there a certain brand? Or?
No, I get them on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, not that I love the Amazon, but I do get them on Amazon, and it works. And I mean, I notice a difference if I don't have them on. I feel better when I wake up in the morning if I have my lips closed.
So breathing through your nose at night gives you higher quality sleep.
Yeah, and it helps your performance throughout the day because if you sleep well, your brain is more on. You don't have as much brain fog. You have more energy at the gym. All the things.
What is something, you've said a lot of great things about Northern Michigan, but I want people to come to this podcast to find out what it's actually like to live here. And it's not all, sunsets and sunrises. What are some things I'll ask the question a couple of different ways. So what's your least favorite thing about Northern Michigan?
So there's two things that I can think of. One is like traveling, right?
Yeah.
So I travel a lot for work. You know, I go to CE conferences, I go to speaking engagements. So the closest airport that I usually use, I shouldn't say the closest because Pellston's close, but I don't use it a lot because I don't fly through Detroit all the time. It's Traverse City, hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
Right. And then if that doesn't work, now you're driving to Grand Rapids or Detroit.
Right.
So it's a lot of time to get out of here. I remember I introduced myself to Paul Reed. I don't know if you know Paul. He was an orthodontist that just retired.
Okay, maybe I do.
So I introduced myself to him one time and said, hey, I'm joining Peggy. You know, I just want to, you know, introduce myself and everything. And he's like, you're going to love it. You're never going to regret it. But prepare for traveling, taking a day on each side.
It does.
And he's so right. I love it here and everything's great. I have to make that sacrifice though. The alternative is maybe living in Detroit.
Yeah.
Where I'm close to an airport, but I'm also going to be in traffic all the time.
Right.
You know, so you got to like pick, you know, what you want. So that is probably the hardest thing, in my opinion. The other thing is staffing a little bit because staff can't always find like places to live in Petoskey.
Can never find places in Petoskey.
I'll let you say that.
Can never find
Yeah. So they're, you know, they might be driving from far places sometimes. So I've had patients or staff come from like Sheboygan.
Yeah.
And then they find something in Sheboygan to work at. And of course it's a no-brainer.
It's hard to...
They want their work-life balance just as much as I want my work-life balance.
Right.
So that's kind of a hard thing I think about here. You know, I've actually had people apply that have amazing resumes from downstate. And I'm like, great. Where are you going to live?
Right.
Let me know where you have a plan to live, and then I'll interview you because, like,
which is smart because I can't tell you, we've had so much, especially in the land. It's been really bad. I would say it's probably been the worst since COVID, where we get these people that call and they're like, we had this lady that was coming to work at the Harbor Springs High School, and you know, great job, doesn't pay. It's education doesn't pay incredibly well, but she's actually living with like family in Kalkaska, and it's just that is a very. I think that is
a long drive.
I think you mentioned it's funny. I think you brought up the, you know, sort of the first world problem. The biggest first world problem in Petoskey is access to an airport. I think the biggest real life problem, obviously, and this comes up and it feels like in every podcast, is the cost of living. This is just an incredibly expensive place to live. And, you know, like in Metro Detroit or Lansing, you know, Lansing, I don't know Lansing terribly well, but in Metro Detroit, for example, you just go to like the next community over. Like the next community over here is, you know, a Lansing, Sheboygan. You're starting to get pretty far away where somebody driving in here in the wintertime.
And you are kind of like, we're like locked, right? Because we can't get across certain things because there's a lake. Right. So there's only certain roads that can get in, and if you get behind those people and there's, you know, bad snow and stuff like that. So, you know, and I don't blame people. I mean, like, they don't want to drive 45 minutes in terrible snow. I don't want to drive 45 minutes.
I don't either.
So even just my 10-minute commute can be hard.
Especially early in the morning. Tell me what it's like, in your opinion, raising a family, having kids in Northern Michigan. What's something you enjoy about having a family here, and then after, what's something that you find difficult for having a family here?
I like that they get to be kids here.
Yeah.
You know, I can let my kids, you know, go maybe to the library or go do these things and not really worry a whole lot. Yeah, they have like a watch, so I can contact them and see where they're at and everything. But I feel like kids really get a similar upbringing that I had, because I grew up out in the country and I just played all day.
Do whatever you wanted.
My parents weren't there and everything. And so I feel like they get to be kids here. I also absolutely love how much like they get to experience the outdoors here, because there's so many things. Like my kids were just at Norte last night.
What's Norte?
So it's mountain biking for kids.
Wow,
and so they were up at the off-field preserves.
Oh, absolutely.
And so they do that twice a week, and I just learned about it too not that long ago, and I immediately signed them up for it because they can learn how to mountain bike. That's like a lifelong sport
100%.
to me. So there's so many lifelong sports here, and like skiing and mountain biking, you know, paddling, all these things they can do. And I think that's the most amazing part about it.
What is something that is hard about having kids in Northern Michigan?
Well, as a business owner, I'm going to say that it's hard having my kids like kind of out in front like if they're misbehaving, it's like reflecting on me. And my husband and I was like, you can't do that.
At least your kid doesn't have the exact same name as you. So that's something I always have to take into consideration.
Yeah, no, that's like the hardest thing for me is I'm always like, guys, we want you to present yourself as being a respectable human being, do that's that. Really it's a small town.
What are some characteristics of this area? You mentioned the outdoors that make Northern Michigan, Petoskey specifically, special.
It really is. So like the outdoor stuff. So what I love is when I'm driving to work, I see so many cars go by me that have a paddleboard or a canoe or surfboard, a kayak, all these things. And I'm like, yes, this is where we live and we play here too. Yeah. Like, you go to work, you work your day, and then you might get out on the lake and do some paddling, or you might take your bike and go for a ride afterwards. I didn't grow up in an area that was accessible at all, and Detroit was definitely not accessible like that. So I think that's what I love about Northern Michigan is people can just get out and play after work and have some balance that way.
I think it's what I like about Northern Michigan. It's almost hard not to be active here. Yeah. There's so many great gyms. Just being outside, and even in the winter with skiing, that's obviously something that's sort of sets this area apart. Yeah,
I didn't love skiing for a long time because it was such a to do. Yeah. So we were in dental school in Las Vegas, and then we were in Idaho. Both have some major good skiing around them, but you need to drive there. You've got to go 2-3 hours or more to get to these places, and it's this big huge day. Or it's a big weekend and it's expensive. You have to find a place to stay. I live 10 minutes from Nubs in Boynton Highlands.
Which one are you? Dewan and I always have this debate because he likes Nubs and I like Boynton Highlands. Which one do you like better?
I like them both. But we are at the Highlands currently.
Yeah, that's where
that's where my kids are doing some ski racing and everything. And
did they take the ski program there? The Mountain Masters?
Do they still have it? Yeah, I think,
did your kids do it?
Oh, did my kids do it? Yeah. Yes. So my kids did a little bit of both. So we were originally at Nubs, and they did some lessons there. They did some kind of Mountain Masters there. Yeah. And then we switched over to Highlands. Just we had a lot of friends going to the Highlands, so it was just good that we had people who knew my kids, and they would say, hey, where are you? You should be with your mom, kind of stuff. So, the village is necessary. Yeah. So we really like the Highlands for that purpose, and
it's funny because Nubs is, you and I are both in the minority because Nubs is by far, it seems like the favorite of the locals, but I just think Boyd's a better experience. Unless you really like curly fries, then you can go to Nubs. But they say the snow's better at Nubs. I don't know how because they're directly across the street from each other. But
my husband thinks this is hilarious. So I'm not a great skier. I actually snowboarded for a long time. Never got good at that either.
That's hard. I snowboard. It's hard.
Yeah, and I ski now, and I'm better than I used to be, but I'm very cautious. I'm very scared of it. So I always told him, I'm like, at Nubs, the blues are a straight drop off to me, and then they kind of clear out. But at Highlands, I don't feel like that. I feel like I can get on it and get going and then get my bearings. So I would probably be better at Nubs now because I've been practicing for a while.
You should try.
But I said, let's switch over to the Highlands because I feel like I can do the blues there easier. And he was like, you're ridiculous.
That's so funny. Tell me, what would your opinion of the schools in Petoskey?
They're all good.
Okay.
They're all good.
Do all of your kids go to St. Francis?
All our kids go to St. Francis. Luca was at Concord for a year. Okay. It was a good, he needed a year to kind of just find himself a little bit in that regard. Yeah. But they're all St. Francis. But I've heard nothing but good things about all the elementaries here. We've considered different things, but we are Catholic, so
that helps.
It's a little easier for them to get their first communion when they're there.
Yeah. This is just having Danielle here today. And we had, do you know Mike and Ashley Rossman?
Yeah.
So they're very similar to us, own a business here. Mm-hmm. Their kids go to St. Francis now. So what I like about Petoskey is I feel like I have peers like you and Nate, them, people just living the exact same life. So that's another reason that I wanted to have you on is so somebody could hear somebody in our position from a perspective that's not
there. Yeah, there's a great demographic of our age and young professionals, kind of just they either are working for the hospital or have a business and things like that. Right. And we do so much together with all of those people. They're people that we ski with. Right. We do events together. We go camping with them. And it's really great because not only is it fun to have those friends, but they I've got a friend right now. She keeps checking in on me because it's been really busy since school started. And she's like, how are you? Yeah, what can I do to help you? Right. And I'm thinking, well, you're really busy too. Right. But I really appreciate that someone's recognizing because she's in a similar position as I am.
Absolutely. How would you say Petoskey has evolved since you've been here? What's different?
I mean, it's growing.
Yeah.
It's definitely growing, and it's getting busier in the summer. I think more people are traveling here in the summer. And also it's just growing as a population. Because I've seen a lot of, like, transfers, or people will call us, see if they can transfer their orthodontic care because they're leaving Colorado, they're leaving California. So I've seen a lot of that, and I've had a lot of patients who have moved here. So I definitely think that that's probably the biggest thing, is it's growing.
Do you see a trend of, maybe you track this, maybe you don't, but do you see a trend of where those people are coming from? It's something we watch. Obviously, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, you probably know more than I do, but I definitely have seen a lot from Detroit, Chicago, Colorado, and California.
Any Texas?
Not that I can think of.
It's interesting because maybe it's because it's an older population and we're probably not going to need
Maybe
that's
like, you can ask my husband. Like, he would definitely know, because he's got the whole family.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we should have Nate on after this. Put the pressure on him. What is, a couple of fun questions. What is your favorite, actually I want to stop that one. What is something you wish Northern Michigan had? Like, what is it? Target, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you my husband wished that we had a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I actually don't care about Target that much, because I always spend more money than I want to there. So like I kind of feel like if we don't have those things, that we'll keep this little quaintness that we have, that if we have some of these big, like, label stores. So I know. I'm just answering for my husband with the Chick-fil-A, because he's just.
Do you like Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, I like it, but I don't like.
I think it's so overrated. I like Nate. I don't know. I know a lot of people like Chick-fil-A. I don't get it.
Yeah, no,
you
it's
get
good.
the sauce at Meyer. I don't know.
Yeah, oh really?
No, it's funny you mention that, because I think when you talk about an area that's growing, a small area that's gotten bigger, you look at Traverse City, and they're starting to get some of that big stuff. And I just saw on the news, maybe like yesterday, the day before, they're doing like $120 million expansion of that airport, which will be great for us. But you're starting to see, and it just comes with the popularity. I feel like during COVID, a spotlight was shined so brightly on this area that, it's always been popular. But I think, people always want to talk about how expensive it is here now and how much prices have gone up. And I think before, it was just the prices were too low. And if you look at the quality of life here versus other areas, I mean, it's probably tough for locals to hear this, but I still think this area with the water and the outdoors and the weather and the sun, it's still, compared to places in California or Florida, Texas, it's still a good value for the quality of life. And I think that's why so many people are moving here. And I'm really curious what happens. I do think there's going to be, I don't know if you've paid attention to where the old Maple Block was. They're moving like rapid pace on that. And there's going to be, 200 new apartments there.
Which is good.
A couple more developments. It is good. We had Sam Bailey on, who was a really, probably one of the smartest economists. He works over there. He's part of the NLEA. And the problem I think we're going to have is, we think that the roads are busy now. Wait until I agree, because your employees need a place to live, and that's awfully close to your office. Yeah, which is great. But you just wonder how these little towns are, from an infrastructure standpoint, are going to accommodate all of this.
Sure, because I mean, we definitely have reasons that we're going to have traffic, just because we literally have a lake that we have to go around. Right. And we already have all these buildings, so we have to think about that stuff. And I do think about that. I think Traverse City is great too, and I love going there and visiting, on the weekends, here or there, because there's just new things there that we don't have here. 100%. But I also, I wouldn't want us to become that.
I don't think we will. I agree.
You know what I mean? I would want Petoskey to remain that. It's charm, I hope it never loses that.
And I think Traverse City, not to slam Traverse City, but I think it's maybe starting to lose that a little bit, where now, early in my career, when somebody would call and they were debating between Petoskey and Traverse City, they picked Traverse City every time. And so for the last few years, they've picked Petoskey every time, and now the pendulum's starting to swing back to Traverse City, because they've just done such a better job of building houses. It's actually cheaper to live in Traverse City than his Petoskey, which it just
depends on what you want,
Yeah, of course.
So when we were in Idaho, we were in a town called Mountain Home, and it didn't have anything. It had a Walmart. That's all it was. And we were 45 minutes from Boise, which Boise is also an awesome city. We loved going there on the weekends, but that's not plausible all the time, right? So I learned how to order off of things online. I had to start doing that, because I was I don't have time to drive to Boise 45 minutes one way all the time. So here, I don't even think about or worry about having some of these stores and stuff like that, because I'm I can get anything I need shipped here.
I will say this, Amazon has made it, not even Amazon, the internet in general, has made, I remember when I lived in Northern Michigan when I was younger, not having access to them. If I would have interviewed you 10 years ago, you probably would have said, the airport, you would have said not having access to a mall.
Yeah.
And now that's not a big deal because
No.
the malls are dying and
Yeah.
everybody buys everything on Amazon anyways.
Yeah, the mall in Lansing
Yeah.
is like, that was like, I worked at that mall. When I
Oh,
was
really?
younger. Yeah.
Where did you
yeah.
work? What store?
Marshall Fields.
Oh, good.
Yeah, before
Which
it
was
it
Macy's,
Hudson's and Marshall
yeah.
Fields and Macy's. So I worked there, and we went there a couple years ago to get a tux for Nate because they still had the men's warehouse, and the whole like a surrounding parking lot had like grass growing through it.
Really?
Because like those stores are closed, so nobody's driving in that area,
Right.
and it was just like it was kind of eerie, right in the heart
so
of Lansing.
interesting.
And then when you go into the mall, it was pretty much just like salons and like nail
Really?
salons and hair salons. And like a couple of stores and a couple of jewelry stores, like that's all that was in there. It was really weird because I'd worked there. That was like
Yeah.
the big thing when I was younger, is getting to go to the Lansing
Of
Mall
course.
and be able to walk around and go shopping and everything.
When you lived in Detroit, right?
So we lived in Berkeley.
Okay, Berkeley. So Lakeside
school in
Mall is another
Detroit.
mall that Lakeside Mall. When I went to college in Rochester, Lakeside Mall was like the mall we went to, and they just like completely closed down. So these malls are just having a heck of a time.
Yeah. We just wonder what we're going to do with that infrastructure too. What are we going to do with those buildings?
Amazon warehouses probably. I mean, like, if they tore the Silverdome down and now you drive past it and it is just like fields of Amazon trucks. It's crazy. A couple more fun questions. What is
Okay.
your favorite restaurant in Northern Michigan? It can't be Chick-fil-A because that doesn't go.
It can't be. I'm excited.
It's got to be yours, not Nate's.
That's hard. I really like quite a few.
Give a couple then. You don't have to
I mean,
pick
we went
one.
to Chandler's last night. I love Chandler's.
Yeah, Chandler's is a local favorite.
I love the ambiance there.
Inside or outside?
We were outside last night, which was great.
Okay.
Because I don't always get to do that.
Especially in September.
Yeah. It was really pretty last night.
What is your favorite event? Is there an event or a favorite event that you look forward to every year? Besides the Know My Fitness Festival.
Oh yeah, well, I love that. I'm excited for the balloons over Bay Harbor.
Yeah, are you going to sleigh?
We've gone to that the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's just really neat because you can get so close to the balloons and just see how massive they really are.
So Danielle's talking about the balloons over Bay Harbor. It's actually tonight.
Yeah.
September, was it 21st?
I saw the one
Some
out
20th.
there. Yeah.
I actually was driving out of town yesterday, and there was one above Fletcher's. I took a picture of it, so they must be. Are they there now?
I just saw one last night, I think, and then I saw that Remax had put theirs up.
Oh,
I
gosh.
think. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
But I thought, they're doing it for the balloons over Bay Harbor, so it reminded me.
I hope they launch. I hope
Yeah.
Remax launches their balloon. Remax is another good company in town. What is your favorite season?
So I really love the month of September because it's like a little summer, a little fall, and you get a little bit of everything. And a lot of the people have left, that were here.
It's called local summer. We've had a great local summer.
I
This
do
year.
really love the month of September. I would say that's kind of like my favorite time of the year. The kids are back into school, so they've got like a a process that they're going to do every day, and that's good.
Routine.
Yeah, that routine, and then I'm sometimes slower at work, which is nice, not this month. And then we just have this beautiful weather still. Yeah, we can still like go to the beach after school, or go to the
absolutely.
pool or whatever. So I really like September a lot.
How bad are the winters here?
Well, we had a couple of mild ones. I've been here
Yeah.
since 2017. So we had a couple of mild ones. We've had a couple of heavy ones. I'm trying to think what that was like 2 or 3 years ago where we had all that snow leading into Christmas.
Yeah.
And we didn't go anywhere.
Right.
We were pretty much stuck, and we were kind of afraid we weren't going to get to our, airport to fly out. But I think you just have to say, like, do I want snow or do I want to sit in traffic?
That's a good question. That's a good debate.
I don't want to sit in traffic. I don't want to do that. I did that for 2 years while I was in residency because I drove downtown Detroit every day and back. And it would take me 25 minutes on the way in and 45 to an hour on the way home. And I just and I had my twins in residency. So I was like, wanting to get home to them. And I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah,
I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, So getting here and having a 10-minute commute or a 15-minute commute in the summer is like, it's just world changing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of what I think about a lot. It's like, I'd rather have snow
than traffic. That's actually snow or traffic. That's going to be the title of this podcast. I appreciate all the information you've given us today. If somebody wants to follow you or learn more about you or send their kids any braces, where can they find you?
So my practice's name is Fry Integrative Orthodontics. Okay. My practice is located between Remax and and the Forefront Credit Union, right on 31, so it's pretty convenient. You can get on my website. You can search Danielle Fry orthodontics, and you'll find me. And Facebook or on my website and everything. You can learn a little bit more about
Great.
what I care about.
Well, I really appreciate your time. What I like about doing these is every single guest we've had so far I've known to some level, and every single one I've learned something new. So it's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.